Okay, so the official notice, I'm going to go ahead and call the October 10th study session of the Board of Directors of the Costa Mesa Sanitary District to order and ask the clerk for a roll call, please.
Thank you. Director Brett Eccles, Vice Secretary Robert Uten,
Here.
Secretary Arthur Perry,
Here.
Vice President Arlene Schaefer, here, President Michael Schaefer.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Public comment. This is the time for members of the public to speak on items not on our agenda that are within our jurisdiction. Do we have any written public comments?
No, Mr. President.
Thank you. Then the most important item this morning is item C. And Diana, we'll let you handle that.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Diana Borjowski will be introducing our newest employee.
I'd like to introduce to you our newest employee, Stephanie Ravelis. She is our new administrative assistant one in the front office, the permits office. She will be assisting the engineering department. We have anticipated her arrival. She's much needed. She's going to help with many things, starting with records management and just helping to keep the department organized, as well as the sewer rebate program. She will be involved in that. Stephanie has a bachelor's degree in business administration, and she has experience as an office coordinator, a contract specialist. And so we are looking forward to utilizing her skills, and welcome, Stephanie.
Welcome. So no pressure based on the introduction. I'm sure you do a wonderful job. Where did you get your degree?
Where did I get my degree? University of Munich.
Okay. Cal State Fullerton lost again, I think. Yeah. Welcome aboard. We're so happy to have you here.
Well, where does she sit?
She sits in the front office right there. So she'll be the first point of contact when people walk in the door with the engineering technician.
Will she have,
She's the one who let me in.
But like,
Yeah.
so be nice to her.
Before you let him in, talk to me first, okay?
Diana, will she have enough time to work with engineering?
Yes, that is the goal.
Okay.
That is the goal,
Thanks.
yes, to assist that department.
That office is pretty busy usually,
Yeah.
you know.
Yes.
Well, we think a lot of this organization, and I'm sure you get to love it too. And again, welcome aboard. Glad to have you. Okay, then let's go to item 2 and talk about the community survey.
Mr. President, if it's over the board, if we could postpone item number 2 until Director Eccles arrives, because I think this is a really important item, if you don't mind, and we can discuss 3, 4, and 5 in his absence.
I'm perfectly fine with that. I don't see David. Do we?
He's not, David is on vacation, but if any questions, I can relay to him and report back next week, or if there's any information you want me to pass on to David, I'm more than happy to do that.
Are there any items that any of the members of the board want to particularly have for David? Bob?
Well, Dr. Eccles brought up,
No, we're not on that. Oh, go ahead, Bob.
Sorry.
We're moving to this. David.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I'm on the survey.
We're gonna
Okay.
postpone the survey. That's for a few minutes. Too early for you this morning, or you?
Apparently.
All right, then we'll receive and file the code enforcement officer's report and the contribution list, item 4.
Thank you, Mr. President. So this was a request by the board. The board was inquiring how many applications has the district received from this program, and how much money total contributions has the district made to special events. In your staff report, we went back 5 years. The board didn't give a specific how long you wanted us to go back, so we just picked 5 years. And in those last 5 years, the board approved 19 contribution applications totaling over $19,000. So happy to answer any questions you may have.
Sorry.
Well, in addition to that, I do want to mention that the board did approve loaning 3 to 4 generators to the Costa Mesa Fish Fry from 2017 to 2019. That is one of the options that people, community organizations can request a generator. If they need one for their event, we can loan one to them.
Did they have one this year? Did they go in there?
Yes, we've, since after COVID, we never had received requests from the, for the fish fry to do it for a generator.
They may have more lights there at the baseball field.
Could be.
I think the carnival also has been participating.
Well, I think the holdup for the fish fry to ask for a generator. And I think they were willing to do it, but it was the insurance requirements that are in the district policy.
Yes, that does ring a bell. That could be true. Yes.
For some reason, board docs is letting me bring up the staff report on here. It says it's got a funny error message. Can you bring up that list for me, Madam? Yeah.
Well, in that regard, Scott, do you have any intention to change or figure out how the community can abide by the present district policy?
If it's an insurance requirement, I do not recommend lowering our threshold or standards for insurance requirements. It's something we've always required. Any contractor or vendor, they have to meet those requirements, and it's very rare that we would waive or reduce our requirements.
So that came from legal or
Yes,
staff? Or
Yes, yeah, it's from SDRMA. Yes.
Yeah, obviously I would object. I think we have a legitimate requirement for the insurance. I mean, if you think about it, that's probably one of the biggest sources of potential injury and liability. The reason I asked to bring this up is it seems like when we get these requests, we spend a lot of time trying to figure out whether it's in the if it's in the public interest. And Alan does a good job of explaining this to us, don't get me wrong, but it just seems like, well, having worked in the nonprofit myself, you're always looking for sources of funding. You're always trying to find somebody that can give you a contribution. I was just looking to see if there was any way of streamlining this, making it easier for people to how do I say this? Make it easier for people to be told no. I think we're pretty liberal as a group in giving out these donations. And I think we need to reel it in a little bit. Bob?
Well, I think, what we do is we go over a list of potential things like, are they going to put us on their website? Are they going to have advertising on site? And we could simplify it for ourselves by just making a decision and making a chart and say these 4 to 5 things are something that are you going to do or not? And we could have a set amount, $1,000 for them doing 4 of them or 3 of them or 2 of them or something. And then, so, so there's no question about whether it's 2,500 or
Right.
500. If they don't do any of it, it's nothing. And if they do some of it, it's something. And
I think you're I agree with you. I think sometimes it boils down to us being arbitrary.
Yeah.
Just let's give them $500. That, the one thing that I don't think we do, or that the groups don't do, is give us enough information about, we're going to give the Costa Mesa Newport Harbor Lions $200 or whatever. I know what they spend their money on or where it goes, but a lot of these groups that we've donated to, I don't know where what are they doing with the money? Are they using it to provide uniforms for their kids? Are they doing some kind of public outreach? If we could incorporate something like that in the application about what are you going to do with the money we give you? If it's just to pay for advertising, I don't know about that.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and the board has been consistent. If it's just for advertising, they have not approved those kind of contributions. It has to meet towards our mission, of recycling, sustainability or wastewater, they can prove that what they're using the money to meet our mission, our purpose, then the board will approve it. But if it's just putting our logo on a flyer or in a magazine, the board has consistently said no on that.
And the one thing we've never gotten from anybody is they say, okay, we're gonna put it on our website, we're gonna put it on our flyers or whatever, our logo.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen anything come back after the event or during the event that says, look, here's what we've done for you?
Yeah, we've seen samples. Sure. They've
You are
seen-
getting them.
they've seen them to us. Yes, we've seen them.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay, on our application form, do we have our biggest headache is the time that they come in.
Yeah.
They come in late.
Yeah.
And we don't really have time to research it.
Yeah.
Do we have a deadline date for application?
I don't think we specifically said it in the application.
Look into that. I think we need to set that up as like 2 months ahead of time. So we can have more time to discuss it and look into it.
And as well, I mean, we both done nonprofit things.
Yeah.
One nonprofit says there, oh, the sanitary district gave us $1,500. Did you ask them? Because nonprofits don't do anything until they're under the gun. Typically.
Yeah, if it's to the board's pleasure, we can come back with a draft amendment to the applications. I've heard many of the comments and suggestions like criteria requirements, that can also relate to a set amount to help you decide how much money you want to donate, put a deadline date on the application. So we can bring back some revisions for you to review and go from there.
Thinking back to recent events, I think one of the ones that I really appreciated and was the one where maybe it was the Love Costa Mesa where they were out doing projects and then they met at City Hall. That one, they gave us a booth and you guys staffed it. That's the kind of thing that I think we get the best,
Sure.
we get the most for our donations.
Well, yeah, that's what, I'm sorry, that's what I'd like to see is what the district board and staff prioritize as important priorities.
Okay.
So if the booth is the most important thing and they don't do that, or if there are 4 or 5 things that we look for.
I think we get our biggest exposure at concerts in the park.
Yeah.
Don't you? I mean, that's thousands of people that see us there.
Mhm.
And I think that's probably one of the better ones.
But the timing should be better.
Yeah.
Timing that's what we need to concentrate on. Not like it's going to be this 3 days. We would need this money.
Okay. So you have
Yes.
good direction.
Yes.
Any other questions from the board? Okay. Thanks for delving into that a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay. Item 5, trash cans on Placentia.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Again, this was a request by the board of directors. The request is to determine how many residents or homeowners are leaving their carts out on Placentia after trash collection day. Their trash collection day on Placentia is Monday. So the board directed staff to go out on Tuesday to kind of do an assessment, how many carts are being left out. And as you can see in the staff report, there's some attached pictures that David Griffin, our code enforcement officer, did some analysis. And you can see on Monday, there's approximately around, he estimated around 60 carts are on Placentia on a Monday, on a trash collection day. There's a picture right there that kind of shows you how clustered they are. But the good news is the following day, this is early in the morning, you can see most of them are removed. So I believe he cited 4 to 6 carts, and they weren't the same carts every 2 weeks. So not bad. But that's what we're finding. So it's not as bad as we thought.
See that time, there's very few left.
Yeah.
But I do have a question.
Sure.
I thought you were going to talk about the 3-cart system.
Oh, no.
Because that's going to be a big headache.
Yes. And that's something we're strategizing how to address it. Now, I understand one of those carts will be removed to replace with a blue cart. So, because right now they have 2 waste carts, so we're going to remove one of them, replace it. So hopefully it might not see a great impact on that blue cart. Yeah, we'll have to wait and see.
They can still rent this second big.
Sure, definitely.
That's a perfect picture for what we've talked about.
Yes.
In terms of, you know, each one of those buildings is a fourplex probably, right?
It's one driveway. usually to-
If you look at that picture, there is no, those gaps are just the driveways. I mean, that is so congested and so bad over there but what do you do? I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah, what do you do?
they've all opted for carts instead of a bin, and
There's no room for bins.
I was gonna
Yeah.
say, there's no room.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine having a truck go down those
They,
things.
they won't,
Have to back up like
they won't do that.
9 or 10 times down.
You'd have to have two drivers.
Yeah, they won't do that.
Well, it always tells you that you need to pick up twice a week.
Let's don't go to pick up twice a week right now. Bob,
Well, I think there's times when Placentia is busier than others. And so CRNR hopefully has an idea when to do this pickup. And that's when, the least amount of traffic would be on.
least amount of traffic is from June to September. And when school's out, it's probably
No, I mean during the day,
Oh, yeah. Oh, okay.
a particular, there's more or less traffic and that's available from the city as to what, how much traffic there is, and maybe it's broken down by time.
I'd say their best time would be like 7 o'clock in the morning because school doesn't start till 8:30. And that's where a lot of traffic goes.
Yeah, I mean, they can figure that out, but I don't know if they do that.
Yeah, I don't know. They usually have a good idea. That's something that we could talk about.
Yeah.
Again, looking at that picture,
Mhm.
look at how many cans are overflowing.
Because of multi-families.
We need to frame that picture and put it out in the lobby because that is about the best picture of of issues that we have over there.
We could hang that under the board of directors. Picture.
Yeah, there you go.
What's that?
We could hang that picture under the boards of directors picture.
It'd be an improvement over some of our pictures there. Okay. All right, so any other questions for staff on that? Okay. All right, then I see Director Eccles has arrived.
Yes, so we're going, item number 2 is this is provide feedback and input from our 2023 community survey. Marissa Pareda will take the lead on this staff report.
Hi, good morning. Yes, I'll be giving a presentation on the proposed 2023 community survey and then seeking the board's input and feedback. And we have a presentation that we'll put up.
Marissa, I didn't hear what you said, but were you asking for board comment?
Oh, so I'm going to do a presentation. We have a brief presentation on the proposed survey, on the methodology and the questionnaire, and then we'll ask for your input and feedback. If you could go to the next slide, please. So first, the purpose of the biannual survey that the district conducts is there's a few different aspects to it. One is to assess awareness that our customers have of the district, of the programs and services that we offer. Also to obtain level of satisfaction feedback. And this is current level of satisfaction as well as satisfaction over time. For the current survey, we're also going to assess awareness and receptiveness to the 3-cart system, and then also receptiveness to adding a second weekly collection day. And this data is used to improve the programs and services that the district offers. So we're proposing that the survey be distributed to 1,000 district customers who receive both trash recycling and wastewater collection services. The survey will be conducted both over the phone and then via an online survey, which customers will receive an email or a text invitation. There is also an option to mail a survey invitation. The survey will be conducted in both English and Spanish, and Vietnamese is available as well. So staff has identified some key areas or key themes for the survey. They're listed here on this slide. And it is important to note that the questions and themes that are, or the questions more that are going to be presented in this presentation are not inclusive of all of the questions that are asked in the survey. These are just kind of overarching themes, and then each theme includes multiple questions. All questions are included as an attachment to the staff report, so you can review those. So the first category that has been identified is level of awareness. This has a few different components. One, assessing customers' level of awareness of the district itself and the services and programs that the district provides. Two, assessing customers' awareness of CR&R, or who is providing the trash and recycling services. Number three is assessing if customers are aware of how much they're paying for these services, and then awareness of the programs that are offered. Next, we're going to be assessing satisfaction with CMSD specifically. So overall, are customers satisfied with the job that the district is doing? Are they satisfied with the programs that are being offered? Have they found staff to be helpful? And are they satisfied with the rates that they're paying for these services? Next, we'll be assessing satisfaction with CR&R. So we'll be looking at whether or not customers have contacted CR&R, if their inquiries were resolved in a timely manner. In addition, we'll be looking at the incidence of miscollections and why collections may have been missed. Given the importance and the impact of SB 1383, we have included some questions to identify customers' awareness with SB 1383, as well as how important the reasons for SB 1383 or the reduction of greenhouse gas emissions, how important those issues are to them personally. Next, given the implementation of the 3-cart system in fall of 2024, we do want to identify whether customers are aware of the upcoming 3-cart system and if they support its implementation. We'll also be assessing receptiveness to adding a second collection day with the 3-cart system. There may be concerns that there's insufficient space on the street for all 3 carts to be collected on one day. And so that's an option that we want to present to to our customers. Are they accepting of that? And if they are they willing to pay more for that second collection day? Finally, we'll be looking at customers' preference for communications. So how do they prefer to receive new information on programs and services from the district? So it's important again to note that these are themes that will be touched on in the survey. They're not inclusive of all of the questions. The questions are there for your review. And I am available to answer questions. Adam Probolski of Probolski Research is also here to answer any questions that you might have.
Okay. Again, these attachments are, I don't know what's wrong with board docs on my, it's not opening. It's okay. So,
I do actually have one final note to add. So the survey as presented, it's estimated that it will take 20 minutes to complete. So if the board does wish to add any additional themes or types of questions, we just need to balance that by removing some of the questions that are being presented.
This is talking about the survey questions. Do we have in there that based on our Costa Mesa Santa District current regulations, do we have somewhere where you can store your 3 cans out of sight? That's based on our regulation. I mean, that's a question that
You like to include a question
we
that
can get
asks,
an answer back from them because we're thinking about changing the regulation.
right?
So if that could be added, I don't know if it's included here. I didn't see it, but.
No, there's nothing included currently that asks if they have sufficient
That'd be one
space.
question. Yeah, then I had Do you know that you're allowed to have only one black can unless you pay for it? And I don't think that's in there either, is it?
It's not, no.
That's going to be a big deal, I think.
That could be right in with, as you're talking about the cost or set it. You know what I mean? If they're satisfied with the costs. Never mind. I'm going a wrong direction, but I think it's part of the overall cost questions. If that could be interpolated in somewhere in there.
Thank you.
Who I had. that I thought was-
Thank you.
I think if we need to leave something out, I'd be in favor of leaving out the 2 collection day question. I believe that we have about 2 or 3 streets that it would be nice to have, or one, I don't think there's any streets it'd be nice to have two different days when trash trucks are going down the street. But the Placentia one is one of the ones that's in question. And there may be some others that I don't have any sense that going to a 2-day collection system. And I don't remember what the board has had a chance to weigh in on this, but I'm not even in favor of wasting time because 50% of our customers are single family residences, and that does not apply to single family residences. The other thing is, I think Director Eccles has mentioned in the past, and I'm in favor of it, and that is an upfront, clear explanation that this is a state mandated program. I think, Marissa, you somewhere in there, staff and Provolowski has, it's down in the middle of the process. And when I saw it in the proposed questions, it wasn't that clear to me. But I think it's time I think this is an opportunity to educate the public that this is going to happen. And we do have some choices like the 3-cart system and whatnot, but they're limited. And they're going to have to pay for it. So item number 4, 1383 in greenhouse gases, somehow that awareness, I think that's one of the important awareness processes. In past surveys, we have asked the question about 3-carts and have always been pretty nearly overwhelming interest in it and willing to pay for it. I believe anything that's environmentally related, the public has chosen to support in the past. And in the 21 survey that we did, that was the case. One last thing, or maybe one last thing, but we have a question in there on what are you willing to pay for solid waste services, and it's 6 or 8 different potential answers. And then when we skip down to, I think one of the most important things to educate the public on is how much do we pay for sewer service? I mean, because it's so minuscule that I think we ought to do the same kind of thing. Are you willing to pay $5, $10, and then give them the answer rather than give them the answer and then talk about it? But
So I think with that question, we're more assessing, are they aware of how much you pay? So it's asking, how much do you think you currently pay rather than which of these following costs are you willing to pay?
yeah, so that kind of question for the sewer system would be,
We can
I think-
include that,
I
yeah.
think it would be more beneficial because they pay so little for the sewer system.
Mhm.
And just stating that they pay $8.78 or whatever it is in a paragraph that the surveyors would ask the people. It's less obvious.
One quick thing and then Arlene's next.
Yeah, I'm next.
So let's talk about the
My
2-day
turn.
question.
Oh, go ahead.
No, yeah, just real quick. Does our contract with CRR, what's it gonna require, if we decide to go to a 2-day, two-part, can we do 2-day in selected areas would be number one, to kind of account for what Bob, I could see Placentia having 2 days. You missed the picture, but it was perfect. It was a perfect picture, I thought. And I didn't even take it. So the other thing is, does our contract allow us, or what's it gonna cost us? And this isn't for the survey, this is for us. What's it gonna cost us if we go to 2-day?
Well, we know preliminary, it's gonna probably be pretty expensive and realistically, the numbers they've showed us so far, it'll probably would not be supported by the public. The numbers they're showing us right now. And I would agree that we don't, so if we do go on that road going 2 times a week, we don't want to just pick selective streets that are gonna have 2 times a week to make it easier for the public and for CRNR. If we see most of those streets that would require 2 times a week, and that's on, let's say, the west side, then we say, okay, all the residents on the west side would be 2 times a week. That's how we do it. That's what we proceed.
It's gotta be all or nothing.
Right, right. So it won't be like, you couldn't be, it wouldn't be like, okay, on Placentia is 2 times a week, and then on 16th Street is 2 times a week, you know, one on the east side and west, they can't work that way. It's too confusing.
Yeah.
They CNR does do, believe it or not, they do have a community that does get picked, trashed up 2 times a week. It's in Avalon, Catalina. They pick up the trash here 2 times a week. So they do it. But again, the preliminary numbers they showed us, it's going to be quite expensive. It probably cost prohibitive to proceed. But we want to, the reason why you just want to test the waters with the public to see are they comfortable with that, and then we can bring that information back to you. Maybe they're not. Maybe the public is not far off on their comfort level as what CNR is proposing. You know,
2 days a week. Do I put my green one out or do I put my blue one out? I mean,
They have to
or,
designate.
so
Yeah,
Arlene had a question.
You know, this survey really, it looks good. The only thing I feel it should be more redundant. By that, I mean, it starts out, it should say right across it, the state mandated says the following. Because that way, the pressure's not on us, because we don't have a choice. If a state mandated means the state mandates it. And then if we said that at the start, they could see, you know, that we don't have that kind of control to change anything. At the end, it should say it again. Just to remind you, if this is state mandated.
It's going to be important.
Yes, so we do, when the SB 1383 questions start, we do indicate that it's a mandate, but we can be more explicit in making it a little bit more clear, emphasizing it more that it is a state mandate.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yeah, and at the risk of being repetitive, this is very important, that there's a question on here about, you know, how much does methane gas matter to you or whatever the environment? Half this respondents will say, so important. The other half will say, I don't care. It doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. So let's this is a state mandate, whether you like it or not, it's coming, folks. So just get rid of that one question, go on the state mandate and the requirements. Like if you wanted to, you could ask, all right, well, do you know that the state is mandating blah, blah, blah? All right, that's great. The other thing, about the and I agree with Director Uten, so I 100% like just and Director Perry on that. The other thing is the cost there. I'll repeat it. That doesn't, whether I know what I pay or not, who cares? Just say, this is what you're paying, and will you pay more, less, whatever? That's a more valid question for our information. Like, I don't know what I pay, and I would venture to guess most, I don't know what I pay. Again, what's it matter? This is what you're paying today. This is what you may have to pay tomorrow, you know, that sort of thing. And then the one thing that always drives me nuts on these things is I like do you own, do you rent? Are you a single family? Are you multifamily? Whether you're a female, male, whatever, different race, it doesn't tell us anything. It really doesn't. Our rates are not judged, or our service is not judged based on what gender or nationality or religion or anything else. So just get rid of it. If someone called me with that, I would hang up and I would not be alone. It's useless information for what we're trying to gather here. And then that leads to a question on the phone. What's the general success rate nowadays on getting someone to actually pick up, not screen you, and then actually hang on the phone for more than 30 seconds versus if we did more electronic communication or whatever? I'm just curious about the phone survey.
Director, so we have an overall response rate of 27% of eligible respondents who actually complete the survey that we connect with. Breaking that down, it's a little bit lower on the phone, but the way we pursue responses is that kind of all mode scenario. So really only people that respond on the phone are the people that really want to respond on the phone.
Right.
And the vast majority, about 2/3 of responses, will come through other means, through online, largely. We don't worry so much about someone like you not wanting to talk to us on the phone, because either you or someone who's very similar to you profile demographically
Right.
will respond to us online or some other capacity.
Okay. And then, so is there a protective measure? So, okay, I see your number, I'm screening that bad boy out, but I actually want to participate. Is there a way to not duplicate where I'm getting 10 phone calls, 10 emails, or whatever the medium is?
Yeah, so there will be typically perhaps as many as 3 follow-up measures for any one particular customer. And so there's nothing that specifically says, hey, I want to opt out. This is public policy, so
Right.
we don't really have to opt people out. But essentially, if someone says, look, don't call me back, we're not calling them back. If we send a text, they say, don't text me again, we don't text them again. So we're responsive to those specific requests. But there's also no chance of doubling up. So if you do respond in one mode, we're not going to talk to you. in any
Then,
other
okay,
mode.
so if I sent my email in, you're not going to call me anymore. Okay, that's all right. That's good. And then last on the question, going back, the one thing, is there a way to put in here either an explanation or a question about, all right, do you know, and are you aware that the sanitary district manages CRR&R? That is our outsourced, trash provider for you. Versus right now, the way I read it, it's almost like, well, CRR&R is separate from us. And I just kind of want to tie that back in, that we're all one big entity and they service our customers, that we manage them, sort of things. If there's a way to kind of, because I do know a lot of people are like, well, I call CRR&R. Well, call it. We're the people that manage your trash service. So that would be something I would be curious about getting on there.
Yeah, we have a preamble now that says the district contracts with CRR, but I can work
Yeah.
with staff to maybe
Yeah.
make that more clear, or beef up the way that describes.
Because, yeah, and I did read that contract. It's got to be wordsmith maybe a little bit more, and then that would work for me. Awesome. Thank you.
I just had a question while Adam is up here about demographics. So I know that a lot of the data is gathered and then it's presented based on demographics. So I wanted to ask if that is something that we can leave out, or if that's kind of necessary to the data that we're gathering.
I think there may be two ways I'll respond to that. From a pursuit of accurate data, our high preference would be to be able to identify that data with the respondent to make sure that we're kind of largely reflecting the customer population. From a reporting standpoint, we do not have to include that data. That may be one preference for the district, to say, look, don't report that data. My kind of response to that would be, and you're 100% right. There's no male or female way to pick up the trash, right? But I think there may be nuances for your outreach efforts if you identify let's say seniors have a greater challenge with one issue or a harder a difficulty with getting information or whatever it might be. There are nuances by demographic that you may choose to do different kinds of outreach, different kinds of communication. That's the value of looking at the data by those different quarters. And so, you know, maybe that's something where we don't wholesale report it, but we can do a deep dive and a briefing with staff. I want to make sure that the board is comfortable with how we report it, but also make sure we have the ability to be fairly accurate in the way we presented the data.
Well, and so I guess that leads to a question. So as you're making your 1,000, whatever, however many calls and touches on the customer base, you have no idea whether you're calling a woman, a man, or a different nationality.
Well, we do. We largely do.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yeah, so
All right.
the all-knowing consumer file that has all our information in it will tell us that, and we validate is what we do when we ask the question. So I'm specifically calling you, and then you're validating through your response that you are you. If by chance, you know, a spouse or a kid or a relative, you know, in that home answered the phone or responded to that email, where we're looking to make sure we're validating who that is. And if the contact record we called shows a different response, we're going to categorize what the person responded, not the data that was in the database.
Okay. I mean, I see it, but I kind of don't. I agree with you 100% on the age. Like, I'd almost be like, are you under 30? Are you under 50? Are you under 80? Like something like that, I think is actually important. Your nationality or your gender, it's like,
I'll give you an example, and I don't want to belabor the issue, and we'll be responsive to how staff tells us to direct it. But an example might be, we work for vector control districts, and your experience as someone who was, we don't ask the question here, but in that case, if you were born in the US versus born in some other country, your experience with mosquitoes can be very different. Our tolerance level for mosquitoes is like way down here.
Right.
We're calling someone, we're figuring something out if we got some mosquitoes. If you live in another country where that isn't something that's really largely addressed or maybe can't be addressed, your tolerance level is way up here. So the same thing goes for, you know, we find that women have a higher sensitivity to certain things like environmental quality and, you know, future generations being able to, I mean, they're just a little bit better at it than we are at caring about the future. And so there may be some
way to dance around that.
So those are things we might identify that may impact policy and may impact outreach, but we'll be responsive. I'm sure staff will give us direction on.
Yeah, and I see where you're going with that, and I don't disagree. And this is my last thing. It's just, yeah, if you know who you're calling and you know man, woman, or even a racial component, and I understand, hey, is this so-and-so head of address? You got your information. You're good. To ask them, hey, do you identify as blah, blah, blah? You're repeating what you should know by your data that you're calling. So that's my last soapbox. Thank you.
Doubt if it'll be your last. But
True.
and thanks for saying under 80 instead of some other.
There you go.
So when you guys call, you know, I get calls on my cell phone that say scam likely.
Yeah.
You guys don't have that or don't worry about that?
I don't worry in general because we have a big pool of people to respond. And there are enough people who will respond in all the different ways. And oddly enough, there's enough people like me who answer essentially every call that comes in. Right? I'm thinking my kid's school has a different number or some other relative, or I just answer every call. And I'm not bothered by the fact that 16 of them throughout the day are solicitations and I can hang up. So it's why 2/3 now of our respondents are online. It's just because how we can filter things much easier that way. And it's just how we organize our lives. Most of us are like that. But those people that have those landlines at home, I mean, some portion of them, and that's their lifeline to communication. That's how they call their grandkids or great grandkids because like it's
you
just,
both are really pushing. I'm not liking that.
It's just, that small section, and I want to make sure we're capturing that small section, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
of population, but
I
yeah,
appreciate
it's a dwindling group of people that prefer to talk on the phone.
Okay, so when I was kind of going, by the way, survey questions did come up under a different format, so I got. So I've been thinking about two main areas. All of these questions about how satisfied are you? My guess is that a majority of respondents, because we're calling from a government agency, are going to automatically say, I'm not totally satisfied. I mean, do you find that in these surveys where the majority says, yeah, I'm a little unsatisfied, even though their trash is picked up every week and their sewers never back up?
You're hired. You just identified the theme that we are dealing with everywhere. So first, to mitigate that, by the way, we don't say we're from the government, we're here to help, right? We don't say we're from the agency. They will determine that as we go through the survey and we're talking about what we're talking about. So that's one thing we don't specifically overtly say, but yes, there is, trying to think where, I was on an Aqua briefing call, and I said, I said something to the effect that there is a national narrative that everything has gone to, and your business basically, and that is what we are hearing in so many ways on a national level. Go outside, and other than the chance of being hit by a falling tree, life is pretty damn good here, and everybody's got a job here, and our economy is booming here. So there's this juxtaposition that we, and I'm not suggesting people aren't hurting in our community, but really, we have great privilege where we live, and the narrative that we're seeing on the news is very scary and negative. So yes, we have, one of our biggest challenges is trying to parse through levels of satisfaction, because I'm just going to tell you that I don't love government for government's sake, versus what the reality is. And that's why we have the questions in multiple different ways. So we'll be able to assess the likelihood for someone to say, when I called staff and they were just awful, when really they're quite pleasant and answer the phone and do a good job, is much lower than people to say, just generally, I don't like the agency or something like that. So we get to look at the data in multiple different ways and hopefully be able to tell the story that says, that people know and appreciate and like you, have hopefully an upward trajectory because your outreach is being effective. But if there's any nuance to that, we will likely qualify it with what you just said in today's context. That might not have been true 5 years ago, and it might not be true 5 years from today, but in the context of the national narrative, yes, we kind of explain that away a little bit.
The other thing is, see, our biggest focus right now from a solid waste standpoint is, we've talked about it all morning, is 1383, and people are going to have to suck it up and do it. So do we ask them about the satisfaction levels before we tell them about or talk about the government mandated thing, or after?
We do. And that's one of the things that I think was brought up, that we want to talk about 1383 now, and then in the middle, and then at the end. And my preference is kind of get that baseline understanding. And then I totally got the message. Let's punch up 1383 to the mandate component. Let's make it very clear. So yes, ideally we get to, what do you all think of what's happening? And then here's what's really happening. How do we address this? How do you feel about it?
Okay.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. I think that does it for me. I'll be done. Any other questions for Adam or for staff? Bob?
No, just a comment. I got the newsletter, and I also get emails from the district now, saying that I can read the newsletter. And I'm also starting to get very good information on like some of the programs that the district is in the near term going to do, like the eco thing. I'm wondering if Well, the demographics that are going to receive that by, the Facebook and Twitter and whatnot is substantially different than, say, my neighborhood. Do we have as a staff or in the survey any way to know how to improve our contact with the with the various constituents, the older people, the younger people? I think that, I thought I saw some questions in there, but I think the survey is an ideal opportunity to try to figure out how to we always want to know how to improve getting information to the public. And that may have been somewhat addressed in the survey, but
Well, I think that's where capturing that demographic data comes into play, so we can identify, the age groups or other categories that are receiving their information via social media or prefer to receive it via mail, so we can improve those programs based on that information.
I do want to tell you, Marissa, I listened to the Upland, I have a second home in Upland, and I listened to them, and I thought they did a very good job. We have Pepe putting out, the other thing is, we put out X number of videos. And is it important for us to know, or do we have a way to know how the public is looking at those, or how not, or are they do they know they're there, and is the content any good? I don't know.
I'm not familiar with exactly how that data is captured, but yes, I believe there are ways to see, how many views or how many people have clicked or how much of the video they've watched.
Video that I listened to, my wife and I listened to, we were trying to figure out whether we should put the food waste in the trash can in a bag or not. And it's different in Upland than it is here because they compost rather than send it to the anaerobic digesters. That is something that the food waste in the organic can is something that I think we need to emphasize in the survey. And the explanation for what the proper method of doing it is, it's just one question. There's 1,000 people going to be taking this survey, and that's 1,000 opportunities to get them to understand the right way to do that.
Good.
Thank you.
Just to be clear, we've got at least two questions on the topic of communication. One is where you live online digitally, and then also how do you prefer to be communicated with? So we'll definitely have that data.
Yeah, that I saw that in there.
Good, Brett.
And President Schaefer was right. I wasn't done yet. But no, following up on Director Uten's comment, as I'm reading Musk's new bio, I'm realizing how dumb I am, but it's another story. But the one thing on the social media, there's what I would change that first question to is more like, also, where do you get your news from? Are you a TV person still? Are you a newspaper person still? Or are you getting your actual news and communication from one of these apps? And I would also add, I don't use it, but a lot of people do, like TikTok. I just read something in Musk's book about TikTok. I'm like, wow, I didn't even know that did that. But there are people out there way smarter than me that use these other methods too to get their actual news, whether you like it or not. So I'd be curious about that too as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you both. Good presentation. Thank you, staff. I don't know how many surveys we've gone through since I've been on the board, but this will be the first time that we have, not the first time, but a really big issue. This 1383 is a really big issue. I always look forward to getting the results of these things. And if I remember right, the last couple surveys, if this is the right term, we score pretty high on that satisfaction level. The last time, I think even all of us were surprised at how high the public held us. Does that, am I accurate with that? Adam?
Yeah, I think it was 71, 73%, somewhere around there overall
We were
satisfaction.
surprised, so I'll be curious to see how that curve works.
That's a credit to them, not up here.
Believe me.
Customer facing entity.
Believe me, I get it. I get
We
it.
gave them the idea.
There, yeah, they
Yeah.
implement everything, yeah.
All right. Any other questions for staff? Timing, can you give us an idea on timing, what we're looking at?
So the final survey will be presented to both the CAC and the board in November. So we'll meet with Adam immediately, refine the survey, and then the next steps will start. I'm not sure if Adam wants to speak on the process, prior to the final survey being presented in November, but from now through the end of the month, it'll be completed.
And the actual survey will take place when?
So once we refine, a pretest will be performed. So as soon as possible, I guess within the next week and a half.
I know in my early days of selling insurance, I did a lot of phone soliciting. That was the thing 40 years ago. And I learned really quick that you don't, during this time of year, you don't call on Monday nights. You don't call if the Lakers are in the playoffs.
Oh, don't worry.
I learned some really different words when we were doing that.
Yeah.
So timing is always a thing for me. I mean, the holiday season, is that a good time to do a survey?
I mean, there's always, we always say there's always a reason not to poll. There's always something going on in your life that's more important than my survey. But broadly, what's kind of different about today than it was, 10, 20 years ago is I used to only be able to call you at dinner time and bother you.
Right.
Now, we can see the responses. My responses come in at 11 o'clock at night. You're kicking back. You've gone through all the other thing for the day. Oh, there's a civic involvement chance for me to respond to something. They're doing it. And you'd be surprised at the IP addresses that people respond with. And we check those because we need to make sure there's no, it's very hard to do fraud when you have a unique link for each individual, but we still look through those. I've got responses from Cabo. And you're in Cabo, you're on vacation, but you still are connected to, what's happening. And so, if it's Monday Night Football and you don't want to respond, you're not responding, but you're probably going to do it when Monday Night Football's over.
Guess it depends on who's playing for us.
Yeah, that's right.
And
If Taylor
just
switches the game.
one last question on the logistics of this whole thing. So November, we're gonna get back revised, and I don't want to drag this thing out. We can't, but can we get one last opportunity? Because I think we've made some maybe minor tweaks and adds and deletes. Can we have one chance to review it before it goes to press kind of thing?
I think as far as timelines, we wanted to have it completed prior to the end of the year. And if we were to extend the timeline to bring it back, it wouldn't go to, I think the next CAC meeting is in January. And so it wouldn't be presented until after the beginning of the year.
What I would propose, if it's okay with the board, I can disseminate the final draft of my weekly updates to you. And then just provide your comments to me immediately, and then I can pass it on to them.
So that would be okay, like if all of a sudden, Director Uten said he made a couple good questions he'd like to see on here, but if we come back and see, ooh, that question is not worded right, we can maybe tweak it last minute via email.
Sure, it's just, but it timing, like I said, timing is going to be everything. So I said next week, I shoot off next Friday, my weekly update. I'll give you attachment. Here's a final survey. Give me your comments about over the weekend, and I can shoot it off to them. So
Perfect.
as long, and it's very important that you do not communicate with each other during
Right.
that. So I just want to
It'd be a
stress that.
one-on-one.
Yeah, just one-on-one with
Right.
me. Correct.
Cool, thank you.
Thank you all.
Yeah, thank you, Adam, and thank you, board, for your feedback.
Most of us are never at a loss for words, so we. Right, Bob? Never mind. All right, last item is oral communications, director comments.
No comment.
I expect no less.
There you go.
Anything else from anybody? Staff, thank you as always. Did we have an earthquake or did a tree? They cut it and it hit the ground.
I wanted to
What's
say
red
something.
Jeep?
Could it fall on my red Jeep so I can get a new one? please?
Wanted to say
Go ahead, go ahead.
I just want to add this. this Living Green that just came out the news was the best one yet. Because it had all the information you could possibly want. And I looked at it, some of my neighbors said, oh my gosh, I didn't know some of this. And they keep asking, but now everything is like a Bible, it really is. So I just thank you.
It's funny, I'm not always a big believer in stuff that comes in the mail. I've had several, since this went out, several neighbors come up and guess what they asked about? The cart, the new, so
Yeah.
it did generate
Yeah.
some. Would you like to give us a report on your breakfast this morning or?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. I was just about to say this is my best meeting ever. I only had to have one agenda item and I'm good, but no, and I do apologize for being late, but as one of the sponsors, it felt had to be there at least for most of it. But I was at the State of the Schools for Newport Mesa Unified School District. Sand District got a little mention out there as well, so that's always good. But to his point earlier, we read about all the nonsense and hear about all the craziness. We're pretty darn lucky. Our school system's awesome. A lot of great kids, a lot of great teachers, administrators. We're doing just fine. So it's good, positive. Dr. West did a nice job as our superintendent delivering a solid message, and it was well attended, and it was great to see the kids also. I again realized how dumb I am. These kids made this little football throwing robot that was more accurate than any of us could be. So that was kind of cool to see their CTE come into play. So all of the schools were represented, and it was a nice event. So I appreciated everyone's indulgence for being late here today.
Glad to have you represent us. I had on my calendar for a week from Friday, the district liaison meeting. Do we know if that's still on track? And it's at the school district.
It's at Mesa Water.
Oh, it's at Mesa Water. Okay. Okay. Thank you very, or do we have any items?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, with that, we're adjourned. Thank you all.